All right, in section 3.5, we talk about something called the slope-intercept form. What is that? That's y equals mx plus b. Requires you to figure out two things. It requires you need to figure out the slope, and you need to figure out the y-intercept. Your lowercase b is your y-intercept. Your lowercase m is your slope. And they're always in lowercase, always lowercase m, lowercase b. Alright, so for each graph, write the slope-intercept form of the line. So we have to find both things. Well, your y-intercept here is -2. That's your b. And what's your slope? Rise 2, run 1, so 1/2. And so you plug in 1/2 for m and -2 for b. You got it. What about this one? Where does it cross the y-axis? At 0. What about your m? Well, here's one. Remember again, you got to pick points real carefully. You can't just pick maybe that point or that point. You want to pick points that are right in the crosshairs. Like this one at 2, -3 is a very good point to pick. So you fold 3 and you run 2, so -3/2 is your slope. So -3/2 and your b is 0, so -3/2x is your answer. Okay? So sketch a line with slope -1/2 and y-intercept of 1. So crosses at y equals 1. And slope of -1/2 means you fall 1 and run 1. And so there you go. There's your line. Now they ask you to write it in slope-intercept form. So y equals -1/2 x plus 1. Now if they give you an equation already, if they want you to write the slope-intercept form, you just solve it for y. So you subtract 2x and divide by 3, and you get your y all by itself. There you go. And you can easily identify your m and your b. Your m is the number in front of x. Your b is always the other number. So here you got to get y all by itself, so let's subtract 4, divide everything by 2, and you might want to write the y on the left instead of on the right. And now you can see that x, the number in front of x is 1/2, that's your slope, and the other number is -2, that's your b. Okay, now this one says write the equation 2x plus y in slope-intercept form and graph it. So we got to solve this for y. So we subtract 2x. Okay, and now we got slope of -2 or -2/1. And we got a y-intercept of 3. So y-intercept of 3, 1, 2, 3. Now the slope is -2 over +1. It means I'm going to fall 2 units and I'm going to go +1 to the right. Remember, the first number is how far up or down. Up, positive, down, negative. Second number is how far left or right. To the right, positive, to the left, negative. What I always do is if the number is negative, I leave the negative on the top, and the bottom number will always be positive, and you'll always be going to the right. And if it's a positive slope, it'll be positive anyway, and you'll always be going to the right. So if you always put the negative on the top, you'll always go to the right. And it'll just become second nature for you. Okay, someone has a cell phone that costs $5 for the initial connection and 50 cents per minute. If someone costs for 23 minutes while roaming, what is the charge? Well, let's first figure out the more basic things. Let's say we buy the phone and we don't use it at all. 0 minutes. Okay, so 0 minutes, it's going to cost us $5. Now what if we talk for just 1 minute? Well, it costs us $5 plus 50 cents more, $5.50. What about 2 minutes? Another 50 more cents, or $6. Alright, so first you look at where x equals 0, and this guy has to be your b. Wherever x equals 0, that is always your b. So your b is 5. Now what's your slope? It's this number divided by that number. So here it's plus 0.5 over +1 +1. So 0.5 over 1 is just 0.5. So m is 0.5 or 0.50 and your b is 5. So y equals 0.50x plus 5. Okay, now they say they also ask you if someone talks for 23 minutes, what's the charge? So y equals 0.50 times 23 plus 5. And 23 times 0.5 is 11.50 plus 5 is $16.50. So that's how much it costs for 23 minutes. Now if it costs $8.50 to talk, how long did they talk? Well, the y is now $8.50 and you solve it for x. You'd subtract 5 and divide by 0.50 and you talked for 7 minutes. Alright. Find parallel lines. Okay, find the slope intercept form for a line that is parallel to this line and passes through the point -2, 3. So they give you one of your points of your line, and they give you a hint about your line's slope. The reason why they're giving you a hint about your line's slope is because parallel lines have the same slope. same slope for parallel lines. This slope is -2, so your slope is -2. So now that you know your slope and you got 1 point, you can use this guy right here, okay? And you plug in your y1 there, you plug in your x1 there, and you solve it for y. And you get -2x minus 1. Now there's another way you can do that. You can take mx plus b, okay? And at this point we know m and we know x and y. So you can plug in your y, plug in your m, plug in your x, and you don't know your b. And from that you can figure out what b is. So 3 equals 4 plus b. Subtract 4. Minus 1 equals b. So if b equals -1 and m equals -2, you got your equation. -2x minus 1. You don't have to do it this way. As a matter of fact, this is what is used in the next section, so probably shouldn't do it that way. You should probably do it this way. Okay? Again, if you know 3 out of the 4 things, you can figure out the 4th one, which is usually your b. So if they give you m and they give you 1 point, you know x, y, and m, and you can figure out what b is. Right? Now this one says, for each of the given lines, find the slope-intercept point passing through the origin. Okay, so for each one of these lines that are passing through the origin, that means each point has 0, 0 as a point. And it's perpendicular to the given line. So if this line has slope of 3, our line has slope of -1/3. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. So you take the number, write it as a fraction, you flip it and change the sign. So -2/5, its slope is +5/2. You flipped it and changed its sign. And for this one, when you solve it for y, you see your slope is 3/4, so our slope is -4/3. So again, 3/1, flip and change the sign, so -1/3. -2/5, flip and change, so +5/2. 3/4, -4/3. Alright? And then it's just a matter of knowing that your b here has to be 0 because it's your y-intercept, b is 0. So with each one, b equaling 0, you just got y equals mx plus 0, plus 0, plus 0. So you get each one of those pretty quickly. Find the perpendicular line to this guy here. So if this guy has a slope of -1/2, we're going to flip that and change the sign, and we get +2/1 or +2. So now that we know m is 2 and we got 1, -1, we can do it this way. mx plus b. And we know our y is -1. We know our m is 2. We know our x is 1. And we don't know b. So -1 equals 2 plus b. So we subtract 2. And we get -3 equals b. So y equals 2x minus 3. Once you know your b, and you know your m, you can plug those two things in and find your equational line. So again, if they give you a perpendicular or a parallel line, they're giving you a hint. They're giving you a hint about the slope. Okay? This one is -1/2, so you flip and change and you get +2/1 or 2. If this was parallel, you just use the same number, -1/2. But it's perpendicular, so you flip and change the sign. And then it's just a matter of finding the other number. Okay, so slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M is your slope, b is your y-intercept. Parallel lines have the same slope. They run side by side like train tracks. Okay. Perpendicular lines are like a four-way stop at an intersection. They're 90 degrees of each other, and you flip and change the sign of the other. Now they say the two numbers equal, when they multiply them, they equal -1. It's easier just to say flip and change the sign. Right? So let's look at the similar examples, and it looks like there's 22 of them. Okay, so the first one says match the description 9 through 14 with the graph A through F. Right? So a line with positive slope. Well, which ones have positive slope? This one and this one. All the other ones are either 0 or undefined or negative slope. So it's either 9 or 10. 9 or 10 are the only two with positive slope. And negative y-intercept. Here's your y-intercept, it's negative, so that's number 9. This is positive y-intercept, that's your number 10. The negative slope, it's numbers A and B, which are 11 and 12. Negative slope, 0 y-intercept, crosses at 0, 0. Negative slope and non-zero y-intercept, so it can be positive or it could be negative, but it's not zero, meaning it doesn't go through the origin, so it's got to be number 12. Alright, a line with no x-intercept, it's got to be 13. No y-intercept, it doesn't cross the y-axis, it's got to be 14. Alright, 15, it says write the slope-intercept form of the line CHUM. So we know it's got a y-intercept of -1, so our b is -1. How do we find our slope of 1? Well, you rise 1, run 1. You go from one point to another point. Rise 1, run 1. Positive 1 over 1 is 1. And you just plug in those two numbers into your mx plus b. M is 1, b is -1. 1x minus 1. 17 crosses your y-axis at 1, so that's your b. And your slope, you want to pick 2 points like these two. And I'm going to fall 2, and I'm going to run 1. Negative 2 over 1 and just negative 2. So there's your negative 2x plus 1. 24, they give you a y, m, and a b, and they want you to write out the slope-intercept form. And to graph it, you start with your b is 3. That's where it crosses the y-axis. And your slope is -1. That means you fall 1, run 1. Fall 1, run 1. Fall 1, run 1. And so you got -1 intercept. Alright, and then this one, -1/2 minus 2. It's right there. Right? And what does your slope of -1/2 means? It means you fall 1 and you run 2. Right? You got to put the negative somewhere. I put it on top. That means I'm going to fall 1 and I'm going to go positive 2 to the right. Okay? Write the equation in slope-intercept form, give the slope and the y-intercept. So you got to solve it for y. So you subtract 2x and you got y all by itself. So m is -2, b is 4. Okay, again, solve this for y and you get y equals 2/3 x. So your m is 2/3 and your b is -2. Here you got to solve this guy for y. You got to bring the 4y over here. You got to subtract the x over there, and you got to divide by -4. And you finally see your m is 1/4 and your b is 3/2. That's when it says graph it. So your m is -3 or -3 over 1. Your b is 2, so it crosses at 2. And -3, you fall 3, and you run 1. Connect the dots. 1/3 x, that means 1/3 is your slope, and b is 0, so that means it's got a y-intercept of 0. And 1/3 means you rise 1, run 3. There you go. Y equals 2, that's a horizontal line with slope of 0, and your b is 2. X equals 2 minus y. When you bring the y over there and the x over there, you get y equals -x plus 2, or -1, or -1 over 1. And your b is 2, so if it crosses at 2, and -1 over 1, -1 over 1, that means your slope is -1. Okay, now 51, the table shows points that all lie on the same line. Find the slope-intercept form of the line. So you can take any 2 points you want and use the slope-intercept form, and you get 1. You can see where x equals 0, your y-intercept is -2, and that's your b. So with slope of 1 and b of -2, it's 1x minus 2. Okay, you want it parallel to this line. Okay, so we want to find the slope for this line. So let's find this line's equation first of -1/2. So we want to use the same slope of -1/2, and it's going to pass through that point. Now you don't have to do it this way. You can say m equals -1/2 and the point 1, 2, and plug it into this equation. Okay, so y is 2, m is -1/2, x is 1, and you don't know b. So 2 equals -1/2. -1/2 times 1 is just -1/2. And when you add 1/2 to 2, you get 2.5. Well, 2.5 is really 5/2. 2.5 is 5.5, or 5/2. So y equals -1/2 x plus 5/2. Okay? So if you know m and you know x and y, you know 3 out of the 4, and you can figure out what b is. Alright, driving a rental car X miles costs 0.25 X plus $25. How much would it cost to rent the car but not drive it? Well, if you don't drive it, that means you've gone 0 miles, so 0 times 0.25 is 0, plus 25 is $25. how much does it cost to drive 1 additional mile? Well, if you plug in 1, it costs you 25.25. That's another 25 cents. So that additional mile is $0.25. That's the correct answer, not that. What is the y-intercept of this? Well, it's 25. Okay. What does it represent? It means the cost to rent the car, but not to drive the car. It's the fixed cost for renting the car. Now B, what is the slope of that, and what does it represent? It's 0.25 over 1. It means $0.25 per 1 mile. Dollars per mile. So it means 25 cents for every mile you drive. Alright, driving a car costs both fixed costs and mileage costs. Assume it costs $164.30 per month for insurance and car payments, and 35 cents per mile for gas, oil, and routine maintenance. So find the values for M and B for the equation, and what does B represent? Alright, so M is 0.35 because that's the amount of increase per mile, and B is your fixed cost of $164.30. So 0.35x plus 64.30. So the cost for driving the car 0 miles is what B represents, which is $164.30. If you didn't drive it at all, you'd still have to pay insurance and maintenance and all the other stuff. 61 says find the slope-intercept form of the line. So here's your slope and your y-intercept, so you just plug those in and you got your answer. They want you to find a line that's parallel to this line and passes through that point. So you know an x and y on one point, but you don't know your m. But you have a hint about your m. If you figure out what this guy's m is, you're going to use the same m. So we solve this one for y, and we see that its m is minus 1/3. So we're going to use minus 1/3, and we're going to use the 1 point minus 3, 1. We're not going to do it that way. We're going to do y equals mx plus b. Okay, so we're going to plug in y is 1, m is minus 1/3, x is minus 3, our b we don't know. So 1 equals, and minus and minus is plus, 1/3 times 3 is just 1. Okay, and when you subtract 1 from both sides, you get 0 equals b. So b is nothing. So y equals mx plus b becomes y equals minus 1/3 x. You don't need to write plus 0. Okay, and that's your answer. Okay, electrical rates cost $8 per month plus 10 cents per kilowatt hour of electricity used. Okay, so they use 650 kilowatt hours in 1 month. What is the charge? Okay, well they tell us it's 10 cents per kilowatt hour for each X is each kilowatt hour used, and you got to pay an $8 rate no matter what. So it's 10 cents times the number of kilowatt hours plus $8, and that's your equation of the line. Now they say you use 650 kilowatts, so that's 650 for X, and you plug it in and you get $14.50. Now B, it says write the equation in the form using C, the cost C of using X kilowatt hours in 1 hour. We already did that. I guess that is part B. Okay. Now part C says, what if it costs you $43 for your bill? How many kilowatt hours is that? So if you put 43 in here for C and solve it by subtracting 8 and dividing by 0.10, well, you've used 360, you've used 350 kilowatt hours. This one can't be right because 0.10 times 65, 650 is 65 plus 8. That should be $73. It should be a lot more because you're using 650 kilowatt hours here, where you're only using 350 kilowatt hours. It's only $43. So that's right, $73. All right. Total rainfall Y in inches it fell X hours afternoon is given by 1/2 X plus 3. How much rainfall was there at noon? So X is the hours past noon. So at noon, 0 hours have passed by. So 1/2 times 0 is 0 plus 3 is 3 inches. So you've had 3 inches of rain as of noon. Okay? Now B, at what rate was the rain falling in the afternoon? Well, 1/2 inch per hour, or 1 inch per 2 hours. You can think of it either way. And then C, what is the y-intercept of this thing? Well, it's 3. 3 is your y-intercept. And what does it represent? It means the amount of rainfall that you had at noon. Right? It means that when time is 0, or noon, you had 3 inches of rain already. All right, and then D, what does the slope represent? It represents the rate of rainfall per hour. So 1 over 2 means 1 inch per 2 hours, or 1/2 inch per hour. You can think of it either way, 1/2 inch per hour or 1 inch per 2 hours. It's the same rate. Alright, now it says match the equation with the graph. So this one they ask you to do f of x equals 3x. Well, it's going to have a positive slope first off, so it can't be c. And it's got a y-intercept of 0. No. This one has a y-intercept of 0, so 49 has to be d. So if that one's 49, okay. Number 50 has a y-intercept, but it's a negative slope, and that one has to be c. 50 has to be c. And so you got these other two that are left. This one has x minus 2, meaning it crosses at negative 2. No. Crosses at negative 2. Yes, that's 51. And this one has a slope crosses at positive 1 right there. And so that one has to be 52. Plus, it's the only one left, so it has to be 52.